what is the ultimate goal, really? If it's to be happy and healthy, am I living a life that serves that goal? A lot of people, if I say to them, what is your goal? They do not know. What do you want? And mine is happy and healthy.
Working backwards actually
Yes.
gives us these pathways to get there. Connie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Emily.
So I want to ask you, why do we look for quick fixes so often when it comes to diet and fitness?
Because, well, I know from my experience, when you're comparing yourself so much to other people, you want that quickly. You want it now. We struggle with patience. We struggle with consistency. We struggle with, to adopt new habits. It takes consistency. It takes willpower, and a real motivation that you really believe in. And quick fixes avoid all of that discomfort. And that's why we turn to quick fixes, because we don't want to have to use our willpower. We don't want to have to find this motivation. We don't want to have to be consistent over 3 months because it's uncomfortable for us. We want it, and we want it now.
And it's interesting really because the quick fixes, sure, okay, we can rid ourselves of this discomfort and changing our habits and overhauling maybe things that we need to change, and it's a bit exposing, we feel quite vulnerable. But then it's actually so painful in this, this diet culture. It's very rare for people who have undertaken these diets. There's lots of different severities of it. Maybe they're going in a smoothie diet or a green diet or 80-20. There's so many different ones. But often it's quite painful. It ends pretty badly. It scars people. They carry this kind of almost trauma from this, and then they bring that into the next phase, and it can be even more drastic. And it's not exactly like a bright solution, as in like a shining, beautiful solution that is perfect for this thing. Do you know what I mean? It brings a lot of pain in a lot of different ways. So it's interesting. It's such like people, the risk reward for me, viewing it as though, the pain of the diet, there's quite a lot of risk there.
Yeah, and it's how it's marketed to us. It all goes back to people profiting from the fact that they know we want quick fixes and we want this change, and it's educating ourselves. We have to take responsibility of our own health and well-being, not just physically but mentally and emotionally. You can't, I don't personally fully trust anyone in the industry anymore, to be totally honest, especially with social media, because I don't know who's trying to profit. I don't know, what people's intentions are. So what I do like to do is strip it back, because I've gone through all this dieting stuff when I was a lot younger. I didn't have the knowledge that I have now, and go, what did we do before all of this chaos? Whole foods, moved our body. We had a lot more physical jobs, and actually just strip it back to what we used to do before all this madness happened, and people could profit from your insecurities. And I find that a really good solution. And I think that's another thing that's really important. If you're feeling this pain and it's all getting too much, like take a step back, take a breather, and strip it back, go back to basics, and start looking for solutions, and start prioritizing your happiness. And that for me is huge. Like, when you're happier, you actually make more logical decisions as well.
It's been a conversation that I've had recently, and Madeline Shaw, a nutritionist who I was speaking to, and we were talking about how it's like the pros and cons, weighing it up. Okay, I'm not going to drink any alcohol, but it means that I'm actually not going to socialize with my friends. Okay, so weighing it up, is that loneliness, or that feeling left out, or that feeling of, not having that connection outweighed by not having one drink?
For me, the issue there is the all or nothing attitude.
Yeah.
So you can do the no alcohol. I don't say that I'm teetotal. Like, you don't need to say that. You don't need to make it a statement. And I think that's what everyone's doing. Everyone wants to label themselves as something at the moment. I don't know why, or intolerant, or anti this, or like teetotal, whatever. Just see how you feel, and if you aren't drinking but you feel like you can't be with your friends, then it's like, well, who are you hanging around with? Because I don't have friends that would make me feel like I now can't socialize because I'm not drinking. So there is a lot to unpack there when you associate alcohol so much, as in this example, with socializing, and you put the two and two together, because then how surface level are your friendships too, right? So I think the diet culture, the all or nothing, is one of the big problems, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that the marketing side of it, everything is a commodity to be sold. Everything is an asset. Our attention span, how long can we be hooked on something? Like our attention is a lot of money. Is what businesses are making a lot of money from. So what are we engaging in? What information are we getting? We talked a little bit before we started recording about, social media. There's so much misinformation. There's so
Mm.
much amazing information, but it's filtering that out. Even in a supermarket, you're looking at all of these different ingredients for things. It's all sold and packaged in different ways. Everything is so cleverly done at this point because we have so much information and intelligence about what we engage with, what size font, what color font, how is it all laid out? The layout of a supermarket, if we take that example in itself, where is the milk, where is the bread, where is the bakery goods? It's all done in this certain way that the fitness industry, I guess, and every other industry is done in a very similar way. So it's just trying to
Mm.
filter that out. And as you say, maybe if we have to view this all or nothing thing, that is where it becomes so drastic, it becomes so unhealthy. And I
Yeah.
talk a lot about consistency on the podcast, and I kind of came to the conclusion that basically everything is about consistency in life, which is actually quite a boring solution because, again, it's not this quick fix or this glamorous thing, and anything, it can be applied to anything. But I actually think that consistency is part two. Part
Mm.
one is actually getting to the gym and working out, what the equipment is and what I should do to be able to build a consistent gym routine. It's not just as simple as I'm going to be consistent and straight away. You need to work out, hold on, where am I going to? And I
Yeah.
think that barrier is a really interesting thing to unpack. So can you maybe talk to me about, from your professional experience, but also your personal experience, that barrier of I'm going to better myself and I'm going to enter this realm of fitness or health or whatever aspect. But how do you get over that barrier? How do you break down the kind of hurdles to get to that consistent part two?
Yeah. Okay. There's lots going on there. There's 2 points that I've taken that came to mind when you were talking then. One is we need to stop striving for perfection. So if you're going to try and be perfect, then you're going to, I was going to say drive yourself mad, because it's almost impossible. You're not going to make a perfect decision, and it's important not to beat yourself up. Again, with the consistency, be as consistent as you can, but you're not going to be perfect. There will be days, where you're not consistent. And there are a few things that I do to try and help with this. But I'll come back to that after we talk about just breaking that barrier and where do you start. And there's something called habit stacking, which I do with clients when I'm coaching them, and what I do with myself, which is for me the most effective way of feeling better about yourself, getting into better habits, and doing it out of love and rather than hate. I'm doing it out of loving myself rather than hating myself, because people almost are punishing themselves with all this diet and all this obsession and extremities, that you can't hate yourself into loving yourself, if that makes sense. It's got to come from love. I'm doing this because I love myself. And you'll make better choices when you're like, actually, I'm punishing myself here, and that's not going to get me the outcome that I want. So habit stacking is a really good way of guiding this, or helping you to structure this. So what I always say is start with 3 new habits that are really manageable, almost effortless. And this is where you really have to get your head around being patient and seeing this as a long-term effort and goal. And when I say long term, you'll see a difference in 3 months, maybe 8 weeks, sometimes within 2 weeks, depending on the habits that you choose. But it's about working out who you are, your body, getting in touch with your body and noticing the differences. Oh, I've been taking omega-3 for the last 10 weeks. And actually I can see a difference in this, and it's about actually really tuning into your body and noticing what habits are working for you, because again, it's an individual thing. So I always start off with something really simple, like increase my steps. And so instead of driving to the high street, I'll walk with the pushchair, and I'll commit to that. And that's not really hard. You know, I can walk to Sainsbury's from my house. Do I walk there all the time? No, but I should, because I can, you know. So that, for example, is one. Taking a supplement in the morning or a probiotic is another one. You know, find out a brand that is you trust. There are brands out there that you can trust. Just follow nutritionists. I'd say follow the experts on that. Or, for example, what else would I increase how much water you drink, just by, you know, starting with a glass of water in the morning, you know, just to set the intention for the day. Another thing as well that I find really, really, really helpful is not making any decisions within 30 minutes of waking up. Don't do anything. Just come downstairs and sit. Like, even with kids, like, I've got 2 kids, they're up at 6. That does give me enough time. Everyone's different, but it gives me enough time to kind of just go, right. Even now I'm sort of at the 15-minute mark. You get better at these things the more you do it. And you're allowing your emotions to settle and your logical brain, the logical part of your brain, to sort of come forward and go, okay, I'm not going to have tea and biscuits for breakfast. I'm going to make myself some Greek yogurt, some granola and some fresh fruit. And I am going to have a cup of tea, but I'm just not going to put my sugar in it this morning. But if you wake up, you go straight for the tea, straight for the sugar, straight for the biscuits. This is classic mum, by the way. I'm stereotyping mums in the morning. You'll do that if you make a decision as soon as you wake up. So I would say, going back to your question, breaking that barrier before you think about consistency is pick habits that you can start off with, rather than thinking about what can I remove from my life, what can I add to my life, how can I nourish my body more, how can I move my body more, how can I, you know, and then each week or every 2 weeks, once those habits become a little easier and more natural, you can then reintroduce another habit or then start taking away.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a slow process, but it's effective, and it allows you to actually really be in tune with your body and actually recognize and listen to your thought process, and how does my brain work, and is that why I'm binging on the weekends, and that's really important. Self-awareness. As a coach, self-awareness is the most important first step. And also honesty, being self-aware and like radically honest with yourself on what isn't actually working and what habits, because there will be a lot of people going, no, I'm really healthy and I do everything right, and I'm, you know, but I'm, you know, I'm not sleeping, and I'm like, okay, well, when do you switch your phone off? Oh, I'm scrolling until like midnight, to be honest, you know. So it's that honesty and self-awareness and being ready for the change. You've got to be ready. I've had people sign up for coaching, they've invested, but they want it, but they're just mentally not ready. So just start off with those small habits, stack them up a little bit, really simple, that you can incorporate into your life. And then just slowly add on, and then also remind yourself, you know, as you sort of go into the 8-week, the 12-week mark of these new habits, that not every day will be perfect. There'll be some days where you'll forget your supplement, or you will be at your laptop because you're having a stressful day at work. That's normal life. Stop striving for perfection. Just do your best with what you've got in the capacity that you have.
Yeah. There's almost a perception that to make any progress, it has to be horrible. It has to be miserable. You have to really deprive yourself. And you say, you know, take things out rather than add things in. It's almost, well, I can't enjoy this process of getting fitter or of being healthier or saving money. Or again, you know, you can apply it to so many different elements of life. But that's not true. And it, as you say, you know, the low hanging fruit of, okay, well, how about you put your phone away at 9 p.m. and see how you sleep? Not, you know, get up at 4:30 in the morning and go for
No,
10.
exactly. Exactly. Some people are the morning people, is figuring out what works for you, you know. And I will get a lot of backlash where, you know, I might, you know, say, oh, I don't drink, whatever, and then, you know, a mum might say, oh God, I've got to have a glass of wine, like, I've got to have my wine, or they you know, whatever, which is fine if that's what works for you and helps you unwind. But just because that doesn't work for me doesn't mean, you know, it has to be negative or a negative experience. And also, don't knock it until you try it, is what I like to say. And you're so right. It's so bizarre that people that are striving to be healthier and move their body more and eat less processed foods can kind of get shunned upon, or like, oh God, here we go, like know it all. That kind of, that you get that kind of attitude sometimes, you know, or you might get an eye roll, and it's just that's like literally fascinates me. But let them. That's what Mel Robbins says. Let them, and that's a really good example of when you can use that philosophy of let them, because what you're doing is right for you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it's finding that, you know, what fits for you. And what was your journey to becoming a coach? What's your background? How did you become passionate about fitness at this point in your life?
Well, I've always been I was like captain of the netball team, sort of always played quite a leadership kind of encouraging, motivating role from a young age. So that's something I've always enjoyed doing. I've always enjoyed cheering on a team and like revving people up and cheering people on. And then university was wild for me, probably my lowest ever point, mentally and physically. That's where my like diets were horrific, taking diet pills and doing all sorts of crazy fad diets, really messed up my body, got glandular fever, called that off a friend, and I was just rock bottom. Left uni, and then, cut a long story short, went into an office job, became really unhealthy, very overweight, and really unhealthy with it. And then decided enough was enough. Transformed, got a nutritional diploma, ended up bringing out a book which was called Healthy Forever, the happiest weight loss book ever. And it was all about whole foods, reducing sugar and all the processed stuff and heavy carbs, but just making healthy swaps that were manageable and realistic, and learning to love yourself in the process, and also appreciating that skinny doesn't always equal healthy, because I'm obviously coming from a more curvy perspective and went through this for a long time. We always aspire to be skinny, right? And you know, it's still the case for a lot of people. And then it's realizing, actually, no, healthy is what we should be aspiring to be, and that comes in all different shapes and sizes. So went through that journey, and then lockdown happened, and I was posting all of this body confidence content, and I became a mum and showing my like from survival mode to thriving mode with Macy. And then I went on a podcast, and she was a coach, and she said to me, you need to do a life coaching course, you'd be great. And I hadn't really ever heard of it, but I looked into it, and I was like, I am basically doing this in my DMs already, but it would be good to be qualified at doing it. So that was what motivated me to get on a course, and now I'm a globally accredited life coach. I've been a coach for now 4 years, mainly coaching women through either business, the mum juggle, juggling motherhood, work, and wellness, trying to do our best at all three, and also showing them that it is possible.
Yeah. And as you say, it's not perfection, because I guess perfection doesn't really exist except in our own minds. And it's that juggling and doing our best at everything. And also you can have it all, just not all at once. And that's such an important way to look at it. You know, you can do everything, but also there's different seasons in life. And that's kind of the beauty of it. There's different phases in life. And one of the things that I've seen you talk about is the 5 pillars. So physical health, emotional health, mental health, financial health, and social health. So I was just wondering if we could kind of go through these one by one, and just if you can expound on them and maybe, you know, explain them a bit more, and how to identify, I guess, the good things and the maybe things we can work on in our own life, because I think often it's hard to identify. It's easy. It's the classic things, you know, it's easy to look at other people or friends and kind of say, well, maybe this is an area you can work on with love, you know, but when we either look at ourselves, we're our harshest critics, or we're just completely blind to perhaps the areas we need to.
You don't want to hear it, you're not ready. Yeah.
Exactly. There's rarely something in between. So maybe you could just break those down and start off.
Yeah. So a bit of background on that is I am the director of Get It Done. So I'm a business partner with my brother Bradley, who is a fitness professional, and I wanted to build the brand out a bit more and incorporate more mindset and wellness as a whole, rather than just exercise and food. And that's something he's really passionate about as well. So we created the 5 pillars. A lot of businesses do have their pillars of health, and ours is slightly different because we've got the financial health in there and the emotional health, and that's not something you often see. But obviously, the physical health is the exercise, the nutrition, but also sleep. Then you've got your social health, which is who are you around? What's your environment like? That could be from relationship to family to work environment to the mums at school or friends. And how is that impacting you? Because it can have a huge impact. Emotional health is how are you reacting to situations? So mental health and emotional health can kind of overlap a little bit. People aren't sure of the differences, but emotional health is more about your reaction and how are you managing your emotions, whereas the mental health is obviously your anxiety and your feelings of sadness or that sort of thing. Emotional health is really interesting. Like when you're in the car, have you got road rage? Are you snappy? Are things bothering you more than they should? How's your resilience levels and things like that? I think personally, we can be sometimes too soft or we can be too hard, and it's finding that balance in the middle. Not to be sensitive to everything and everything you see online, and taking everything personally. I think you've got to have a bit of resilience there, and it's important to have a thick skin at times, but then also not lacking empathy and understanding and not being open-minded is not great either. So it's finding that balance. And then you've got the financial health, which I haven't seen anyone cover, from especially not a wellness app. And this was really important to us for multiple reasons. One being that suicide in young men and men in general is extremely high, and a lot of it can be down to financial pressure and this feeling of not earning enough, not being enough amongst that sort of male egotistic sort of environment, which can be really hard. And that was something Bradley was really passionate about. They talk a lot about like the 1% of men and all of this sort of stuff. And so we wanted to cover financial health for that reason, but also because we're living in a world where everything is going up. The cost of living is crazy, especially at the moment. It's just gone wild. I mean, our mortgage went up by £700, plus we had to send our son to childcare. It's like how are people coping and surviving? And I think not a lot of people are talking about it enough. Social media makes everyone's lives look like they're on holiday all the time, or they're brunching all the time, and they've got all these new outfits all the time. And what's the actual reality of it all? I think obviously gender roles and relationships have changed. You've got the traditional gender roles, but now even if you want to be a traditional couple, which is absolutely fine if that works for you, where the man provides and the woman is the homemaker and the nurturer, which is equally as important, if not more. But they can't afford to, even if your partner is on a really good salary, because the cost of living has gone crazy. So it's about how are you navigating that? How does a mother feel having to put her child in childcare when she never wanted that? That then links back to the mental health. So by creating the 5 pillars, it allows people to go, I'm feeling it a certain way. Maybe it's low or down or frustrated. I don't know why. Okay, let's look at your 5 pillars. Look at each pillar, rate them out of 10 if you have to, just to really understand and delve into each pillar and see how one is impacting the other. Their financial health might be so low, is then impacting their mental health, which then is impacting their physical health, and all of them interconnect. And that's why it's so important. And that's why we're so passionate about it and passionate about the financial side of things, because when you've got financial pressure of paying bills, you might be in debt or anything, anything can happen. You might, crash a car and then all of a sudden you've got no car and it's going to cost a fortune, but you're already worrying about the mortgage. This happens to people every single day, and it's not spoken about enough. I think there's a pride and like people are a bit ashamed or embarrassed or feeling shy about talking about money, but I always have the conversation with friends. I do. I'm like, I'm just honest. I'm like, God, Ricky's got a stag do, and I've got a hen do, and we've got a wedding, and it's all abroad, so we haven't got a budget for a family holiday this year. Some people would feel so embarrassed and ashamed to say that. My partner probably would hate that I've even said it online on a podcast, but it's life, it's expensive, and I'm not afraid to say that, I'm paying for a mortgage and all these things. We've both got a car each because we have to. So, something has to give, rather than putting myself in debt and showing up on social media as if I'm absolutely minted and got no problems. So, yeah, essentially, I got really passionate then, but essentially, the 5 pillars were a way of people being able to, at home, if they don't have a coach or they don't have access to a therapist or a coach like Bradley or a coach like myself, they can sit down and go, right, here are the 5 pillars. How am I? Right. Okay. So actually, my physical health is the lowest. So the first thing I'm going to work on is that pillar. My other pillars are okay. So that's where I'm going to start. Or it might be your financial health is the thing that's really bad. Okay. So that is going to start having an effect on all my other pillars. That's what I'm going to focus on. Or maybe you're in a toxic work environment. Then on the weekends, you're going out with friends, getting drunk and drinking your sorrows away. They don't really care about you. The friendships are based on drink, because they wouldn't dare go for a hike with you or a bike ride or just a stroll with a cup of tea. So actually then you're feeling actually low at work, low on the weekends. So then you've got no motivation for the other aspects of your life and your other pillars. And this can happen, and it's a really good way of being self-aware and analysing what's going on in your life and then taking action according to that. Because what we can also be doing is going on social media, following our favourite influencers and healthcare professionals, and going, she does that, she takes that supplement, she does that on the weekends, I'm just going to copy her. But she's not you.
Yeah.
You need to sit down with yourself, you need to look at your pillars, and you need to go, actually, what do I need? And what's going to work for me? And yeah, it might be that you need to look at moving jobs. You might need to do that. It might be something which might sound like a really big jump. Or maybe you have that first conversation in the workplace with HR. I don't know. But get the ball rolling. But the first step is to look at your 5 pillars and use that as a guide for where you're at with your overall well-being.
Yeah. And it just links, all of these 5 pillars link together so well. And Alex Hormozy, he has this quote that so much money is there to be made on the other side of a difficult conversation. And I think that obviously he's talking about business. So he's talking about, if you speak about a pay rise or about getting, creating a business or investors. However, I also think that can be applied to friendships. Lots of, say, financial or, the money of friendships, so currency of friendships. Creating deep rooted friendships built on trust and honesty and love. If we use that as the currency of friendship, yeah, then I think that a lot of, that currency can be built up on the other side of a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
Obviously there's the career side of it, or the fitness side. A difficult conversation with ourselves can sometimes be quite hard as well.
Yeah. It's essential to get out of that rut. It's that fear of discomfort. People have a real fear of discomfort and fear those uncomfortable conversations, whether it's with ourselves or with someone else. And that's why a coach is really good, because we ask the right questions to help people unearth, because a lot of people won't know what a coach actually does. We're not a therapist in that we don't talk about your past and situations that have maybe caused trauma. We could take you from where you are now to where you want to be. So it's more future focused in that sense, help you setting goals, help you create structure and move forward. But we ask questions to help unearth those challenges and those discomforts, and help to give you the courage to be uncomfortable.
And I think that embarrassment part that you kind of mentioned there, especially with the financial aspect, when we actually have an upfront conversation with ourselves, and especially if you add in then a coach or a friend or someone who is maybe helping us or keeping us accountable, there is actually scope for a bit of embarrassment, because we've got to be pretty raw, we've got to be pretty open. And I think that the financial aspect, everybody's going through this cost of living. Everybody's
Yeah.
going, oof, you know, supermarkets are really expensive now. My energy bills are going up, mortgages are going up, and everybody's feeling the pinch, no matter how much money or how little money you have. Pretty much everybody, it's a universal thing. They're
Yeah.
feeling it.
It'd
And
be a lot easier if we all talked about it and actually said, "Are you feeling it? I'm feeling it too. Should we just do this instead?" Or, let's talk about it more because it's making me feel stressed or anxious. Now I know that everyone's in the same position as me. I feel better.
yeah, and I think it's really interesting, the whole juggling and balancing for women. And it's something that, people might find. I've seen women respond to questions like this getting a bit defensive. Would you ask men this? And I completely understand why, women could get defensive in that. But ultimately, women grow the child and they give birth to the child. And even if they go back to work as soon as possible, there is that period of time where, they are recovering. It's a massive physical thing of having a child, and then someone's got to look after the child, so there's got to be that conversation of who's going to look after the child. And it's maybe, as you say, there's this traditional pathway that there's a choice to go down, or of course women can work. But is it that they want to work or they have to work? The cost of living is so high now, is maybe that choice
Being
almost
taken
being,
away.
it's been taken away. So that freedom that we're celebrating of, I can stay at home and look after my children, or I
Yeah.
can actually build a career. If, we're assuming here that it's in the field of women who want to have children. Like, is there actually not a choice now? It's that things are so
It's feeling
expensive.
more that way. And also, if you look at the pay gap, a lot of women will message me saying, I I actually want to go back to work, but my salary doesn't even cover the cost of childcare, even with the 3 hours, or or by the time I've paid for childcare, I've got £100 left.
Yeah.
So that was a huge response I got regarding predicament that people are in. If a mother wants to go back to work, sometimes financially they're not no better off, and she's doing it so that she can just get her independence back, but she's almost working for nothing, which is really hard. Well, I say get her independence back, just get whatever floats your boat. I think there's so much worry and concern about offending people amongst these topics, each to their own. That is their motto. We're not, everyone is different, and everyone wants to go back to work or not go back to work for different reasons, and that's absolutely fine. I love having my own money. I don't like having, I wouldn't like to ask Ricky for money. It's just the way that I am and built. I've always been that way. That's one of my motivations to go back to work. But I also love being creative. I love what I do. I'm passionate about it. So that there are my reasons. But if my work didn't cover the cost of the childcare, it's a conversation me and Ricky would have to sit down and have. And it would probably mean him having to work 2 jobs,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. He's an electrician and he's got another job. He'd have to do more of that. Then he's exhausted. He's doing more hours. I don't see him. Then it impacts your relationship. It is having a knock-on effect in all different areas, and it's really hard. And this is why the financial pillar is really important. And do you know what? It's actually really hard to improve your financial health when the economic climate has so much control like it does now. But if we talk about it and support each other and are understanding and empathetic towards each other rather than getting defensive, getting angry, I think that is a lot more useful and a lot more productive. Being defensive and about things is, that's when you have to look at your emotional health as well. I think most people have good intentions when they show up online or when they do a podcast like this. No one's out to get anyone, really. There might be the odd person, but most people have good intentions, and we want to raise awareness and support and just have these conversations. So I think it's about going, actually, why am I defensive, and looking inward, because majority of the country, I can't really speak for everyone, but I would say, based on my following and the conversation I have with my audience, is that we're all really in the same boat and we're all doing our best.
Yeah. And there's almost so much fear of offending people. that these conversations aren't taking place. So then people feel more isolated. They think, oh my goodness, well, no one's talking about what should I do? No one really has any viewpoint on it because it's not something that, it's almost a hidden struggle, similar to the financial struggles that maybe we want to keep them inside and we can't admit to them. And then it becomes this massive thing. And actually discussing it takes, the pressure off it. It's out in the open. Okay, I'm actually, really struggling with this. And I think it can be in every part of those 5 pillars. And another part, I guess, the social health is quite an interesting one because, again, loneliness is on the rise and we can connect to anyone anywhere around the world. We are recording this podcast remotely. We're both in the UK. But if you were on the other side of the world, we'd be doing it in the same way. It's amazing that we can do it in this way because we can speak to anyone at any time, we can FaceTime, we can message, we can connect with people we will never meet, famous people, celebrities. There's this barrier has been taken away.
Our social skills and our person to person skills, it's all gonna plummet if we're not careful. If you're making friendships online all the time and that's how you're getting your kick, you're more than likely going to struggle in a social environment outside. You're going to be more anxious going to an event or a party or approaching someone in a bar. You can't allow that to happen, in my opinion, as a human being. We aren't meant to be on our own. We're not meant to be lonely and on our own and talking to other humans through technology. That's not how we're built. We need to see people, touch people, and develop our social skills, body language, all of that in person. It's not natural. And again, it's choice. It is choice. So we're talking here on the podcast through Zoom, that's fine. But I'm meeting friends in person and, I'm not sat doing this all day long and I'm not socializing through my phone, which I worry for the younger generations. I listened to I can't remember which podcast it was, but they were saying they'd done tests on teenagers and when they removed their phones for 21 days, they actually had better friendships. They actually enjoyed their friends more. They were scared that they were going to be left out by not having their phones, but actually it forced them to meet up in person and actually engage with each other and have conversation rather than just scrolling and laughing at videos together. They were actually getting to know each other on a deeper level, like what we were saying. Everything's so surface level, like they're actually asking each other questions and looking at each other in the eye and connecting, which is so important for our mental health. It is down to the individual to take back control of that side of things.
I think especially
it's a choice for me.
Women will make friendships generally through emotional sharing and sharing of how we feel, and we'll connect and we'll have this empathy and that'll form a bond. But then men, a lot of it's through shared experience. They need to do something. They're, rarely would men go and meet for coffee and chat. They'd rather, go and chop wood or go for a run or,
physical,
That's how, biologically our brains kind of connect with one another. And we can go back to, evolutionary biology and psychology, which I just love discussing that part of it.
I love it.
The men would be going off and hunting and getting food, or shooting predators, and ultimately like that is how they would bond. Men make friends quite quickly because they view another man and think, are you a threat to my family, my close family? No, okay, right, okay, I trust you. Because back in the days of cavemen, they would see another man and think, okay, are you a threat to me? If you are, I'll fight you. If you're not, then okay, let's go and fight the predators together.
Yeah.
And that's that. Whereas women is different because it's less obvious in physical violence. It's more emotional. Okay, are you going to be a threat to me in a different way? And that's a very complex thing. But then when you kind of put this through a digital platform, it's very difficult to have shared experience through a digital platform for men. But then for women, things are very portrayed in a certain way, and this perfectionism that we talked about at the start, it is just amplified to the nth degree on social media because it's such a tiny snapshot of what we're showing.
And what I would say as well, which is so relevant to this, but so many people are showing up on social media how they want to show up, not who they really are. There are a lot of people people will be following a lot of influencers and people who are following who they think, oh my gosh, she could be my best friend. but there is so much to their personalities they're not showing you. You know, there's so much about them that you won't know unless you meet them and you feel their energy and you know, have that we have to have more in-depth conversations, right, to know and trust. But we're like falling in love with these people on the other side of the phone. We don't even know who are rehearsing or choosing what they're going to say and do.
You can spend hours, creating a paragraph for a caption on Instagram or sending a message. But we have this in our generation, even, picking up the phone and calling someone's terrifying because you've got to do it on the fly. You know?
There's nothing's unfiltered or raw.
Exactly. And it's just funny that like basic connection with people. And I think the authentic self and our authenticity, when we see someone online, perhaps, showing a more difficult side or, showing things that they're struggling with, we almost feel more connected to them because there's this
Yeah.
authentic side. But then a lot of the time, I think we don't actually have that integrity with ourselves and who we are and what we want to do. Who, are we living ourselves, like portraying this view? Are we going on holiday because we think, oh my goodness, I'm going to get this amazing picture for Instagram and people are going to think I'm really cool? Or am I
Yeah.
spending £9 on a coffee or smoothie or exercise class or whatever because I want to portray it? And if you want to do that for yourself, absolutely.
It comes back to caveman times again, because we want to be part of a tribe. That's what we strive for, to be part of a tribe. So the seeking validation by copying what's cool on social media is the same thing. I want to be part of this. It's exactly the same thing, but it's so superficial and it's so surface level and it's so vain almost.
It is.
Yeah, it's seeking value. And we see you got the authentic mums showing their messy house or whatever, and I try and show as much reality as possible, and we go, oh my god, thank god, I feel better. But we still want to be the mum with the most aesthetic house, with the perfect life, with the Range Rover and the cleaner and the housekeeper and all of those things. But she won't show you that side because that's not the point of her content. It's 500 outfits a month, and look, they're making a business. It's their work. But and I follow all these people because I love getting the outfit into it. It's no shade on them. What I'm trying to say is take it all with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
And look at the authentic profiles and know that most of us are actually like that. And even those aesthetic pages, that's their brand, that's their job, that's their full-time job. They've probably got a Monica cupboard, is that what everyone calls it, or a doom pile, where they've got a cupboard full of like stuff and they're just pushing it all in there before they shoot their content, like, because they're a brand, they're building a brand.
Mm-hmm.
So it's realizing that as well and trying to yeah, just again, it's knowledge and education, and actually let's stop being so naive. Let's wake up a little bit to it,
Yeah.
Them, they're business women at the end of the day, and they've found a way to make business using their beautiful homes, and that's amazing. But they're 5% of the population, and they're working really hard, and they're doing it for finances, and they've got obviously a creative streak and whatever, but it's their full-time job. Your full-time job is probably in an office or whatever it is you do. You might be a teacher or whatever, so your life will never look like hers because she spends that 9 to 5 making it look perfect. That's her job.
But also, the more money this metaphorical woman will spend on her outfits or interiors or holidays, the more money she will make from the content that she's creating from that.
Yeah, it's her job. It's her job. That's her business model. So it's realizing that and going, actually, my business model isn't the same as hers.
Exactly.
And that's what she's created for herself, which is amazing. But I'm sure there's pros and cons if you actually spoke to one. But again, influencers aren't allowed to talk about the hardships of their jobs, because really, is it creating content in comparison to some jobs like being a nurse and stuff is not hard. So that's not what I'm trying to say. It's just, it's taken her time and energy and creativity and all her skills to build up that business. So be happy for her, take it with a pinch of salt, and know that it isn't real, and you don't need a new outfit every single day, and it's just about bringing yourself a bit back to reality. Again, that's your responsibility as an adult to go, actually, that's her reality, but let's bring it back.
And if we went to an art gallery, we would look round at all of these beautiful paintings with these beautiful frames and exquisitely finished and hung lovely, like on the wall, looking amazing. And that is kind of what Instagram is. Do you know, there will be the production of this beautiful art piece with this beautiful frame, but we don't see, the however many discarded drafts of it, or the bit of the frame that was cut off, or the glass that cracked when they were cutting it to the right size.
Yeah.
And it was going to be all of these drafts. This is the
Yeah,
fine.
or how depressed that artist was when he was doing it or she was
Yeah,
doing it, like all those things that are happening in the background.
exactly.
We can't base our standards on based on Instagram and social media. You can't stop comparing. It's not good for anyone. It's really not I mean, it's really hard not to, but we're comparing because, again, we want to be part of something, we want to feel part of a tribe, we want to be included, we want to be validated, but you're doing that with something that's not real.
And with kind of carrying on the theme of the tribe and the people around you who ultimately are going to, keep you safe, keep you sane, look after your children, keep predators away, find you food, keep the fire lit, all of these things that we look for, because we can live anywhere, we can do anything, we can move house, we can move job, we can work remotely, we can work online. There is that disintegration of this tribe, and it can maybe, we might not even have a friend group. Maybe we'll just have individuals who don't actually know each other and link together. And also, what we're talking about at the start, if you've got friends who you can only feel that you can socialize with if you go to the pub and drink, and you don't want to go to the pub and drink, as the important caveat here, then they're not actually going to be looking out for you in that way. Are we holding on to these friendships because we've had them for the past 10 years, but actually we feel really rubbish at the end of it, or we actually can't be honest with them? We can't have that authenticity that of who we are, who we want to be. So it's that balance of how do we create a tribe, which is ultimately like a family? Because I think this is different from friendships to family, because we almost need a family around us of friends, and family love each other kind of whether they like each other or not at that moment. It's a different type of view on it.
Yeah.
And we can feel isolated by not having that, because we have this digital age which fulfills a lot of the social connections that we need. I think social media does tick a lot of the boxes, but on the surface, where it leaves these massive like crevasses of social need, of actually feeling understood, feeling connected, whereas it entertains us, it might give us that little dopamine hit of, speaking to people online, but it's not the same as that, having that tribe of people. So it's actually less obvious than feeling actively lonely, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it gives you. It's like, again, it's like a short-term quick fix.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
that
exactly. It's the diet
another
pill
fad.
of the tribe
Yeah,
of friendships.
yeah, that is literally what it is. It's like the next fad for your
Yeah,
social health. Wow, I love that. I love that we've just discovered that. But yeah,
yeah.
ask yourself, if who would I call? Who could I call at 3 o'clock in the morning, or
Mhm.
whatever? And if you can't think of someone, then it's time to switch things up. Maybe go to a fitness class, or try something. Find a community or something in your local area, um, where you can potentially meet someone, which can be scary. I know it can,
Yeah.
but you've got to. I always say, what's the worst that could happen? If I love knitting and there's a knitting club, what is going to happen to me at the knitting club? What really is going to happen to me? I'm going to go in, I'm going to say hello, and I might go, and maybe no one talks to me and I talk to no one, but I'm listening and I'm knitting. Then the next time I might feel a bit less shy. Or then the next time someone actually says hello to me and asks me, oh, what's my name? So you don't just go once and then shun it off. Keep going, repeat, 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 and start breaking down that barrier and realize that actually, what's the worst that could happen? If I
Mhm.
go, instead of just going to the gym on my own and just going on the treadmill because I don't know what else to do, try a class, smile at the men and women around you, just a nice, polite smile. You know, show that you're interested and willing to meet people. Obviously, don't be strange. Hi, but like, just have that positive energy about you. going in all shy and hunched over and stuff, like your body language, like open it up, like just start practicing and like get yourself out there and try new things. Nothing changes if nothing changes, and it's one of my biggest and most favorite quotes. And just do it step by step, you know, like if you would like to meet someone in person, maybe for a relationship rather than going on dating apps, then just start off by going to a bar with a friend and don't speak to anyone, but just get comfortable in that environment again, you know, and then the next time, maybe then just, you know, smile or say hello to someone and then just build it up. You don't have to go in all guns blazing from the get go, you know, like just take your time with these things. But I do think that it's being aware that things like social media or things like a green juice cleanse are just small little fixes, and you know they're not long term. They're not going to help you long term. It's not a long term strategy. It's not a long term strategy for happiness. It's those deeper friendships. It's being self aware, always analysing, always looking at the 5 pillars. Every month, just do a 5-pillar roundup. How are my 5 pillars looking now? Like, what can I work on next month? And having those little goals to keep you consistent, which is really key and really useful. So that you know you're going in the right direction. What is the ultimate goal, really? Like, Emily, what is your ultimate goal? If it's to be happy and healthy, am I living a life that serves that goal? Am I making the right am I making the right choices? A lot of people, if I say to them, what is your goal? They do not know. Most people do not have a goal that they're working towards. I'm not asking you for like your financial goal, like what do you want? You know, and mine is happy and healthy. So
and working backwards
yes,
actually gives us these pathways to get there,
yeah,
because the
that's
time
what
is
coaching is.
pass anyway, whether we do anything or not, which is terrifying but also empowering in equal measure. If
Yeah,
we, say in 2 years I want to be in this place, if we don't put any work into getting to this place, we're still going to be 2 years time, God willing, on this
yeah,
earth. And that, we can either put it to use, or we can sit there and wish and wait for this kind of
yeah,
magic, the magic beans to come our way, and Jack and the Beanstalk moment. But I think just acknowledging that, going back to the friendship element, we are human. Look someone in the eye and smile at them. Do you know, it's that classic thing of when you're in a city, like I live in the countryside, so everybody smiles and says hello to each other. When you go to the
yes.
city, it's as though you don't exist. You know,
I know,
it's as though
I know.
you're not a person, and it's weird if you like smile and look at someone or whatever. And like, imagine on the tube if you made eye contact with someone, how embarrassing. And it's that
I do
part.
it anyway. I do it anyway because it makes me feel good. I don't care. It makes me feel good. I care about who I am and what energy I project and what makes me feel good. And if selling a lady that I think her coat's amazing, I'll do it. I don't care because she might think I'm strange, but it made me feel good.
But
And I
also,
think that's another
if
thing.
someone says to us, "Oh my goodness, I love your coat," a complete stranger, like, we're all going to feel great. Like, really, it's going to make it.
Literally make her day. It would make my day.
And also, we're all pretty much the same. Do you know, if we're at an exercise class and we're
Agree.
there by ourselves, and a girl comes up to us who's kind of similar age to us and starts chatting, oh, like, hi, like, how, do you live locally or whatever? I've actually just moved here. I want to make some friends. It will feel like the scariest thing ever to do if you're that person going up to, like, it will 100% feel like the scariest thing ever. But ultimately, like, if someone came up to you in that situation, you'd probably be like, oh, like, hi, like, maybe you're like, okay, nice, like, I'll have a nice chat, but I'm probably not going to be friends with you. You wouldn't say
Yeah.
that.
No.
Or, it's going to be the start of a really lovely friendship. And
Yeah.
that is actually the way to connect with people. Like, there's not really any other fix.
No.
How else are we going to do it? There is this gap between.
And that's going to become harder and harder the more we
Mhm.
rely on social media for.
Unless we do it. Unless we do it as well. It's a
The less we
muscle.
do it, the harder it's
Muscle to
become.
train.
It is a muscle to train, and that's why I do worry about the younger generation and like,
Yeah.
you know, what they're going to be like in that sense. So it's ensuring that, like, for me as a mum, that my daughter's obviously at school, but also having play dates and interacting with friends outside of school, outside of that environment as well, and that being normal. And the more I realise, the more sociable I am in that sense, the more sociable my kids will be, and better their social skills will be because they learn off us as well. If you're hiding yourself away, and that's learned behaviour too. So sometimes it's hard to be motivated for yourself, but do it for them. Then do it for your kids. Make these changes, and adopt these habits for them if doing it for yourself just isn't hitting the spot, because a lot of mums feel guilty or selfish for putting themselves first, or or all of those things. But actually, when you realize that the knock-on effect it's having on your children, you go, actually, it's not just for me, it's for them too. And that's me talking from a mum perspective. They
There's a
learn
lot
from
of
watching
levels.
us.
There's
So
a lot of levels.
yeah. So that's from mums as well. If you find it hard to put yourself first, just know that you're not doing it just for you as well. And again, it's like motivation, the motivation behind things. So we were talking at the beginning about weight loss and skinny and dieting. When being skinny is your motivation, it's not a pure enough intention or motivation to be consistent. When your motivation is to be healthy because I want to live longer so that I can, I don't know, maybe spend more time with my family and friends, and because I've got so much more I want to achieve and see. I want to see the world and all of these. If your motivation behind why you want to be healthier and happier is more meaningful, then you're more likely to stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
When the motivation is, because I got a wedding in 2 months' time, so I really need to get my act together. Usually, you don't stick to it because it's just not meaningful enough. It's not got enough purpose and satisfaction.
And what is one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given?
Oh, give me a second. This might help actually a lot of the 5 pillars too, and especially the social pillar. But the first thing that came to mind, this will be, I don't know if it's the best piece I've ever been given, but the first thing that came to mind, which is usually the right answer, someone said to me, everybody has something to teach you or a story to tell. So be open to whoever is in front of you and what they have to tell you. Sometimes the lesson isn't obvious, but it will come to you later in life, But I think that's a really good one, because then you become it made me more friendly, more open to hearing about people's stories and lives, and removes judgment as well. We're so quick to judge, I can't be bothered to speak to them, or like that they don't look like my kind of person. But let me tell you now, they all have there'll be a story in there or a lesson that helps you grow and evolve and become a more well-rounded human being. So I think that was a really lovely piece of advice that I've taken on board
Mm-hmm.
massively.
Yeah, for sure. And if people want to work with you or follow you online, where should they go?
So at the moment, the best thing to do is to follow me at Connie Simmonds on Instagram. I try and respond to every single person in my DMs. So if you're interested about coaching or have got any questions after today, then send me a DM, or you can email me. My email's in my bio. So I'd say that's probably the best way to get in touch and connect.
Wonderful. I'll link those below as well so people can access them easily. And thank you so much, Connie, for joining. What a conversation. We've covered a lot today.
I know, we really have. I really enjoyed it. I love that you love cavemen as much as me.
You're right.
Amazing. Thank you, Emily.